A grasshopper lands on a web. It can't see a single spider. It thinks it's fine. But the moment its legs touched that silk, it sent a signal through hundreds of connected threads, and somewhere in the web, about 100 tiny hunters felt it at the same time. Not with their eyes, with their feet. What looks like a messy tangle of threads is actually a shared nervous system, and the grasshopper just announced exactly where it was. The spiders don't need to see their prey. The web does the seeing for them. So the sticky net framing, that's what most of us start with, and it's not just incomplete, it actually points us in the wrong direction. The web built by Anolosimus eximius isn't a passive trap waiting for something to blunder into it. It's a sensor, and the spiders running it aren't waiting to catch prey. They're waiting to hear it. These webs can stretch several meters across the forest understory in South America, and from a distance, they look like a mess, like something got tangled in the vegetation and nobody cleaned it up. But every single thread in that structure sits under tension, and tension is what carries vibration. The geometry isn't random. It's a design that's been field tested for longer than we've been a species. Now, these spiders have eyes. That's worth saying plainly, because people assume a vibration-based hunting system means the animal must be blind. It doesn't. But consider the environment they're working in. A dense tropical rainforest canopy layers leaves over leaves, filters light, and cuts sightlines down to almost nothing. Vision works fine up close, but for detecting prey at any real distance through that kind of cover, it's nearly useless. So over time, the hunting strategy shifted almost entirely away from sight. They traded one sense for a better one, given where they actually live. Silk conducts vibration faster and with less energy loss than air does. When an insect hits the web, the mechanical energy from that impact converts immediately into waves that travel outward through the threads at a speed air simply can't match. Every spider touching the web picks up that signal almost at once. Not as sound, not as something they see, but as a physical pulse felt directly through their legs. The sensory organs doing that work are called slit sensilla, and they sit on the spider's legs. They're not ears in any sense you'd recognize. Think of them more like accelerometers, small mechanical receivers tuned specifically to movement through a surface. The web becomes an extension of the spider's own nervous system, so the moment prey makes contact, that contact is already a transmission. Researchers tested this by attaching a dead horsefly to a small motor and using it as a controlled vibrational lure, adjusting frequency and intensity to see how the spiders responded. What they found is that the response wasn't uniform. It changed based on signal strength. That tells us the system isn't just reactive, it's calibrated. And calibration matters here because the web is not a quiet place. Wind moves it, rain hits it. Other insects brush across it constantly. The spiders have to filter all of that out and lock onto the specific signature of struggling prey. The web is a sensor operating in a noisy room, and the spiders read it anyway, because the signal a live, trapped insect produces is different from anything else the web carries. Now, consider the size of the animal we're actually talking about. A single Anolosimus eximius spider is smaller than a ladybug. Not as a rough estimate, but as a literal fact about its body size. So when a grasshopper hits the web, detecting it is only half the problem. The other half is what one spider that small could possibly do about it. These spiders live in permanent colonies, hundreds of individuals sharing one web and one food supply, and that arrangement is genuinely rare. Out of roughly 50,000 described spider species on Earth, only about 20 live this way. Not temporary clusters that form and break apart, but stable, cooperative societies that persist over time. The reason they ended up this way comes down directly to what they're trying to eat. A grasshopper can outweigh a single one of these spiders by about 700 times. Scale that up to human terms, and you're looking at one person trying to physically hold down a blue whale. One spider that makes contact with prey, that size gets kicked off. It gets thrown. It gets nothing. But a coordinated group pulling together in the same direction changes the math completely. And the coordination isn't random swarming. Researchers filmed groups of around 25 spiders responding to a controlled vibrational lure and found a very specific movement pattern. The spiders move together, stop together, then move again, a rhythmic pulse that researchers described as a pop and lock style, and it looks almost mechanical when you watch it, not chaotic at all. That pattern exists because of a noise problem. When spiders move at different times, their own footsteps travel through the silk and muddy the signal from the prey. The web can't separate two vibration sources cleanly when both are running at once. But when the whole group freezes at the same moment, the web goes quiet, and every spider can feel exactly where the prey is. They're generating silence on purpose, so the signal stays readable. Researchers built a computer model from that video data to test what happens when the synchronization breaks down. Groups that moved without coordinating performed much worse at finding and capturing prey, especially when the prey produced soft, faint vibrations. The model confirmed what the fieldwork suggested. Coordination isn't a bonus feature of this hunting system. It's how the system works at all. There's also a flexible side to this. When prey is large and thrashing hard, the vibrations it produces cut through the noise without much help, and the spiders don't need to coordinate as tightly. But for smaller, quieter prey, the group has to be precise, because the signal is faint enough that any extra noise on the web buries it. The spiders adjust their level of synchronization based on what the web is telling them, which means this isn't a fixed response, it's a tunable one, and the web is doing the tuning. But detection and coordination are only part of what's happening here. The spiders aren't just sensing that something landed on the web, they're reading what kind of thing it is, and that distinction changes how the whole colony responds. Different prey produces different vibration patterns. A moth struggling in silk moves differently than a beetle trying to pull free. A grasshopper kicking hard sends a very different frequency through the threads than a small fly buzzing against them. The web doesn't just carry those differences, it preserves enough of the signal that the spiders can make a judgment call about what they're dealing with before any of them get within striking range, and that judgment matters. Because approaching large prey isn't a neutral act for a spider this small. A grasshopper can kick hard enough to injure or kill an individual spider outright, so the colony isn't just asking whether something is there, it's asking whether going after it is worth the risk, and the web is what gives them the data to answer that question. The controlled lure experiment showed this directly. When researchers ran the motor at high amplitude, mimicking the kind of thrashing a large insect produces, the spiders responded faster, and more spiders moved at once. When the amplitude dropped, the response slowed and the first spiders to move coordinated more tightly before committing. The web was giving the colony a rough size estimate, and the colony was adjusting its response based on that estimate, all before any spider made physical contact with the prey. We actually do a version of this ourselves. In the dark, a loud footstep tells you something large is nearby. A faint rustle reads as something small or distant. The spiders are running the same basic calculation, just through silk instead of air, and with a level of sensitivity that doesn't have a clean human equivalent. Now, the web carries one more layer of information that's easy to miss. When a spider moves across the silk, its own footsteps produce vibration, and every other spider on the web registers that as noise. This is exactly why the freeze cycle isn't just about movement, it's about data quality. When the whole colony goes still at once, the only signal left on the web comes from the prey. The colony mutes itself, so the reading stays clean. What's also worth noting is that this shared silk surface runs the whole colony's life, not just its hunts. Feeding happens on it, offspring get raised on or near it, defense responses spread across it. The web isn't a tool the spiders pick up and put down, it's the physical structure their entire social life runs through, and every vibration traveling across it carries information that every spider in the colony can read at the same time. That's not a web in the way most of us picture one. That's a distributed sensory network that hundreds of animals share and collectively operate. So, what you're actually looking at the next time you walk past one of these webs in the forest isn't a mess. It's a shared sensory surface that hundreds of animals run together. One that's been tested and refined across millions of years of actual hunting, and it outperforms anything we've built to do the same job. The silk carries the signal, the freeze produces the silence, and the silence is what makes the kill possible. Because a grasshopper that can't be seen, can't be smelled, and can't hear its hunters coming, still can't hide from a web that already felt it land. If this kind of close look at how animals actually solve hard problems is useful to you, subscribe. There's a lot more where this came from.